Hello everyone, today we are breaking down Season 1, Episode 3, Destroyer of Worlds of the 3-Body Problem. But before that, remember to like the video, helps out the channel a lot, and subscribe, and yada yada yada, let's get to it. The first thing we see is Clarence pulling up to a nuclear research center in Switzerland. Clarence is the one investigating all the suicides with the scientists and pretty much looking into all the other weird stuff that is happening to them. We have another suicide. The victim was Dr. Schmidt. A bunch of projects got suspended since the physics on Earth has stopped working, so Schmidt decided to take his own life. You gotta remember that some of these scientists have dedicated their entire lives to these projects, so for them to be shut down is heartbreaking. We see that Dr. Schmidt drowned. He just stuck his head in a tub. Clarence thinks someone may have murdered him, that it is an odd way to kill yourself. Clarence looks in the safe and finds one of those VR headsets they have been looking for. The question is, was it planted there for him to find? Like when he or his superiors put it on, will they be able to play or will they just get killed right away like Jack last episode? We're now with the Oxford Five, so Saul, Auggie, Jin, Will, and Jack. They are discussing the suicide that Clarence was just investigating. They are talking about how scientists seem to be killing themselves, and what has been happening the last few weeks. I assume Auggie has filled them in on what she and Clarence were talking about last episode when she went down to the station with him. Everyone leaves the room and Jin hangs back looking out the window. Will sees this and stays behind as well. They start talking about the past. We find out that Will is quitting teaching and she is shocked to hear this, so clearly she doesn't know about the cancer yet. He says maybe there's more to life than knowing everything. So Will knows he doesn't have much time left, he isn't going to do something he doesn't enjoy. He then asks her to get out of England with him and go exploring. Remember, Will has always had a crush on Jin, but was too scared to ever ask her out. And once again doesn't have much time left, so he decides to shoot a shot. She says maybe one day, but she still has things to do here. I mean, she does have a boyfriend, so she let him down easy. I mean, she didn't say no at least. We're now with Auggie exploring Jack's house. She stumbles upon the VR headset and puts it on. She, like everyone else who plays it at first, starts freaking out. It feels so real. But she was not invited and the sword lady comes and cuts her head off. She takes the headset off, grabbing her neck. She literally thought she was just killed. Auggie runs down the stairs to confront Jack about the headset, saying how a woman tried cutting her head off. Auggie then goes into how real it felt. Jack and Jin then start talking about the game. Auggie looks at Jin shocked. Jin never plays video games. Jin tells her how Vera's mother gave her the headset. Auggie gets upset, saying this is the game Vera was playing before she killed herself, and now you're playing it? Auggie thinks it could be related. When her and Clarence spoke, he gave her a rundown of all the other people who saw the countdown like her. Clearly, whoever is behind the countdown and the stars flickering is behind this headset as well because it is so advanced. And Auggie sees that. Auggie asks who invited Jack to play, and he says he just found it sitting on his coffee table one day. He goes on to say that he has cameras all over his house and he saw no one in or out. So the footage was scrubbed clean of whoever put the headset in his house. Kind of like when the footage was scrubbed clean of the strange woman who lit Auggie's cigarette and told her about the stars. Auggie sees this connection. Saul sees it as well, saying the countdown, the stars, and this game are realities indistinguishable from our actual reality. That these things are all connected. Jack asks Saul who is behind it then. Saul thinks about it. He doesn't give an answer to who, but he brings up an interesting point. The game controls all sensory inputs and outputs, everything that goes into your brain and out. Could this game have manipulated Vera? Saul says she wasn't acting like herself before she killed herself. A lot of scientists who have committed suicide have had these headsets. Clarence pointed out how weird the suicide was at the beginning of the episode. Was Dr. Schmidt being manipulated? Food for thought. Auggie wants Jin and Jack to promise her they will stop playing. They both promise. We're now with Jin and Jack, and yeah, they haven't stopped playing. They video chat over their computers. It seems both have gone to level 2 and are discussing a strategy. So the sword lady said they needed to use science to predict a stable era. You may recall from last episode that the point of the game is to predict when a stable era will occur and for how long. When an era is not stable, it is known as a chaotic era, and that's when civilizations die. Jin brings up a notepad with drawings and then brings out a whiteboard. Jack is a little shocked by this, like he thought he was the gamer, but Jin is taking this very seriously. We see Clarence is watching their video chat as well, listening in. As we saw last episode, he's been keeping tabs on the Oxford 5. Jin has been taking notes every time she has played the game. But there doesn't seem to be a pattern for the sun's movements. She suggests maybe there isn't a pattern. And then she says she has a radical idea, but needs Jack, aka Francis Bacon's, help. The two put on their headsets at the same time and are now occupying the same game world, so multiplayer. It seems to be in Jack's game world since it's more European themed. Jin's world seems to be more Asian themed. The two meet follower. She tells them that the Pope is going to make his decision here soon and they have to hurry. The game uses real life figures from history, like in level 1 Jack had Sir Thomas More and Henry VIII in his world. Jin tells follower that they are going to save her world this time. We find out that follower remembers every time she dies. Could be important or just a random thing. I suppose we'll find out later. The two enter the Great Hall to see Pope Gregory. Some people may recognize this actor from Game of Thrones, he played Varys. The Pope tells the two to share their proposal to explain the behavior of the sun. He also states that Aristotle and Galileo put forth quite a strong one. So once again, figures from history, but from different time periods. Aristotle is from Greece and lived around 300 BC, and Galileo lived in the 1500s. Jin walks up to give her proposal. She states she has made dozens of measurements, and the sun seems to change every time. And she has witnessed more than one celestial body in the sky too bright to be a planet. The only explanation is that they are part of a 3-body star system. Jack realizes she has done it. Jin is right. Now this is a real thing that is studied in physics, not just made up for the show. Jin explains the 3-body star system to the Pope. That if their planet revolves around one of the suns in a stable orbit, it's a stable era. But when one of the other suns grabs the planet away from that sun, the planet wanders through the gravitational fields of all 3 suns, which is a chaotic era, which will last until one of the other suns fully snatches the planet back into their orbit, creating a stable era once more. Aristotle and Galileo say this is BS and the Pope needs to decide on their proposal. They want to be right, they want the glory. The Pope says he has heard enough and orders Jin to be burned at the stake. The guards grab Jack and they are most likely going to execute him afterwards. Galileo and Aristotle taunt Jin and Jack saying, "Suck it, Copernicus." So this makes me question if these two are other players as well, because I just can't imagine these two historical figures saying that. Jack fights off the guards and rescues Jin. The glass shatters on the church, and follower on a burning horse comes through the doors, saying how there are 3 suns in the sky and the world is ending. So Jin's theory is proven correct. There are 3 suns in the sky. The planet they are on is part of a 3-body star system. The world has turned into a fiery mess, lava everywhere. In the sky we see 3 suns. Jin and Jack are still alive, which means they have passed level 2, and the Sword Lady comes out to meet them. She tells them that Civilization 152 was destroyed by a tri-solar day, and they have successfully revealed the basic structure of the star system. The game has entered level 3. They know what they're dealing with now they just have to try and solve it, to predict stable and chaotic eras. We're now with Clarence and his boss, Thomas Wade. They're looking at the VR headset they got from Dr. Schmidt. We also see they are looking at the feed from Jin and Jack's video call. Clarence is giving him a rundown of what the game seems to be about. He has not played the game yet, and his info comes from what he has heard from Jin and Jack. Clarence doesn't think the game sounds that fun. A lot of math and calculations, which to be honest kinda sounds like it sucks. Engineering has taken a look at the headset, so it seems they have not been able to get it to work, so the people behind the game have basically shut it down. They don't want the feds in their business. But they did find out it has a retinal scanner, an oxygen meter, and a brave wave sensor. It is collecting a bunch of biometric data. Wade then says, so while you play the game, someone on the other side is playing you. So I believe Wade thinks there is someone on the other end, which we have seen, that this guy changes certain parts of the game for different users to try and manipulate them. Wade believes that it is a recruitment tool that they are going after the Earth's best and brightest. This makes sense as we've only seen scientists and Jack have these headsets. But what are they recruiting for? We'll find out later in the season. We're back with Jin. She's taking off the headset when she sees that Raj, her boyfriend, has been sitting there watching her this whole time. She seems to have been playing a lot. She looks very sweaty and disheveled. Raj wants to know if he should postpone dinner with his parents since she has been dreading meeting them. He also thinks she has been acting a little weird since she has started playing the game. Like she isn't even going to work anymore. Now granted, science is currently broken, so there's nothing for her to work on, but still. She says she wants to meet them. Raj seems happy to hear this, but tells her to go easy on the science talk. We're now at the dinner, and Jin did not take his advice and is going full nerd on his family. After Jin finishes her rant, Raj's mom says to her, "A top physicist, your parents must be very proud." There is a hint of sadness in Jin's eyes here. Clearly her relationship with her parents must be strained, or they could be dead. Raj's dad then tells her a war story when he was back in the military, how he killed a bunch of enemies with a grenade, yada yada yada. The only reason I point this out is because it's such a weird thing to bring up at dinner, meeting your son's girlfriend for the first time. Maybe that story correlates with something later in the season? I don't know. We are now with Will. He is in a hospital bed. Jack and Saul come to meet him. They remove some of the tumors in his body. He is being discharged tomorrow. Will goes into a story of how he spoke to the cancer when he was put under for surgery. He says the cancer isn't entirely evil, it's just looking for a place to live. So from last episode, we know that the aliens have been contacted and have said they will conquer our world, which Wenxia was thrilled about. She even offered to help them. Anyways, I think this is like a metaphor. The aliens are like the cancer. They aren't evil, they are just looking for a place to live. We find out that Will never told Jin about the cancer. He believes she knows already. He then tells Jack and Saul they have to save Jin from Raj. He doesn't seem to like the guy. He says he's always smiling. Now, is this foreshadowing, or is Will just super drugged out right now? I'd probably say the latter. We're now with Auggie. She's talking to the person who is financing her nanofibers. He says he still believes in the tech, the applications for it. Water filtration, tissue engineering, carbon capture. It's still worth pursuing. Auggie says she still believes in it too, but she wants to recheck the engineering. She wants to try and buy as much time as possible before starting up again because she doesn't want to see the countdown again. She's afraid it will come back if she starts working on it. The investor is confused, like he knows there's something else going on. He believes she is having a mental breakdown and says if you insist on refusing to start the project back up again, we can continue without you. You took us far enough that we can finish it. Auggie says none of this works without her. Now, she doesn't want to start up again, but this is her project. This is her baby. She doesn't want someone else taking credit for it or finishing it. The investor basically tells her that her work visa only works if she's working. So she kind of gets threatened to be thrown out of the country if she doesn't start up again. We see Auggie still in the office. She starts working on the nanofibers again and turns the testing area on. The countdown returns, a minute 20 remaining. She freaks out and shuts it down again, not wanting the countdown to get to 0. The countdown disappears again. So the countdown is being caused by the aliens, and it seems like they are tracking Auggie somehow as well. So if she tries to continue her work, the countdown will reappear. So she really doesn't have much of a choice in the matter. She has to stop. Because if she doesn't, she could end up dead. Auggie calls Saul for some comfort. She tells him what happened. She asks him to come over, he says he will, and then we hear a female voice in the background. Saul was sleeping with someone else. Auggie hears the woman and hangs up the phone. It is never really said what happened between the two. Clearly they were in a relationship, but it seems they have put it on pause, and Saul is taking full advantage of that pause. We're back with Jin. She barges into Jack's house. They're going back into the game. They are now in level 3. They seem to be back in Jin's world. It is more Asian themed. They see this Shandu, which was Kublai Khan's pleasure dome. Once again, it is a real place, and Kublai Khan was a real person. We see a bunch of soldiers holding up signs, and we see towers in the middle of these forces. Jin and Jack walk towards the main building. Jin breaks down their situation, that they are in a 3-star system, and they can't predict the motions of the 3 bodies in space, at least not for long, which is a classic 3-body problem. Jack points out that famously there is no solution to that problem. So unless Jin has figured out the solution for this question that has stumped pretty much every scientist ever, they won't be able to predict stable eras. Jin and Jack meet with the Great Khan on top of the Pleasure Dome. There are 2 others there to present their solution to predicting stable eras, Sir Isaac Newton and Professor Turing. Once again, real-life people, but the years in which they were alive in the real world are different. The Khan asks if Jin and Jack have a proposal. Jin says they considered this problem impossible. Khan then basically tells them to shut up and for Noon and Turing to start their proposal. Noon tells them that he's developed a math called calculus that will predict the movement of the sun, and these calculations will be performed by Professor Turing's great human abacus, which is what the soldiers who are holding up these signs are a part of. Basically, they have made a human computer. We see the human computer at work. They are turning the flags one way to mean 0 and another way to mean 1. What you need to know is that it works. Khan asks when the next chaotic era will begin. The computer does its calculations. The next chaotic era will begin in 3 days. It will last 8 months, then a stable era of 10,000 years will commence. The Khan tells his soldiers to dehydrate for 8 months and 3 days. They do. We then see Professor Turing put his hand on the floor to speed up time. I thought only actual players could do this, so maybe Turing and Noon are real people. Anyways, they speed up time to 8 months, and they are correct. They are back in a stable era. Jack looks at Jin asking if they actually did it. Jin says not according to modern physics. Noon tells her to shut the F up, you troll. Once again, this language makes me think this is an actual person. The group starts to argue and the Great Khan tells them to all shut up. He then tells his guards to boil Jack and Jin alive. They throw them into the boiling water, all the while Jin is telling them that the calculations won't work, that Noon and Turing are wrong. Jin speeds up time, putting her hand on the floor of the pot. She speeds it up until she sees the suns doing something weird in the sky. She then tells the Khan to look. The suns start to line up in a line. Then the gravity on the planet seems to get lower. Everything starts to float up. Jin says that the planet is under the gravitational force of all 3 suns, so everything is getting pulled up towards the sun. Khan, angry at Turing and Noon, lunges himself towards them and cuts them in half for being wrong. He then floats up into the sky as well. Jin and Jack go into the building so they don't float away. Jin then figures it out, that the goal of the game is to not solve the 3-body problem, but to help the people survive. Jack doesn't understand, nothing can survive here. The sword lady comes out of the sky. She tells them they have figured out the true purpose of the game and have now entered level 4. We're now with the dude who has been watching the two as they play through the game. He prints out some papers and goes to see another man, Mike Evans. So Clarence was right. Evans is behind the game. This also confirms that Evans is working with the aliens as well. The man tells Evans of the 2 new candidates they have. Evans tells him to have them vetted for the London summit. So it seems Jack and Jin will get to meet some people if they accept the invitation. The man leaves. Evans turns the microphone on and says, "Apologies, my lord," and starts reading some fairy tales. So Evans is speaking with the aliens right now, and weirdly enough, he is reading them fairy tales. Why? Who knows? Maybe they don't have tales and books on their planet. They then go into this fear monologue. The aliens state that fearlessness leads to extinction and that humanity needs to learn fear again. Evans says they will teach them. So this is a little confusing. The aliens want to conquer. We know this from episode 2. So us being fearless would be a good thing according to the logic they just used. Unless they think the feared would be easier to conquer because no one would be standing up to fight. I just noticed this while I was editing, but the photo behind Evans looks like Follower, right? Like, could this be his daughter or someone else important? I suppose we'll find out later in the season. We are now with Jin. She hears a knock at the door. She received a package. She opens it. Her gamer tag is on the letter. "Copernicus, we invite you to level 4, 10 p.m. the Sunset Lounge." Jack got the same invite and they head there together. Clarence followed them there, seeing if he can get some concrete evidence of who is behind the games and everything else for that matter. Jin and Jack walk into the building and a woman is sitting there waiting for them. It is the strange woman who told Auggie about the countdown. So this confirms that everything is connected. Apparently Jack and Jin are the only 2 in the UK who have made it this far in the game. She congratulates them, saying Jack's understanding of the game parameters was essential for them being there, and Jin for figuring out the point of the game, to save the people. The woman even pointed out that Jin felt their plight, that her cingulate cortex activity was the highest ever recorded. Jin looks at her a bit concerned that the game is gathering this data, and they are storing it. But before she can say something about it, Jack starts talking about the design of the game, and how it's like nothing he has ever seen. The lady tells them that all their answers to their questions are in level 4, and they put on the headsets. There are no buildings around them this time, and they are wearing their regular clothes. They are greeted by the sword lady and follower. They tell them that Jin was right, there is no answer to the three-body problem. It doesn't matter how far advanced a civilization gets, it will end in a cataclysmic event. The sword lady then says, "When your planet is doomed and there is no way to fix it, what do you do?" Jin answers, "To flee, to find a new home." The sword lady then says when they received the invitation to Earth, they knew their destination. They built 1,000 interstellar ships and they are heading towards Earth as we speak. Follower says that most had to stay behind, and then asks Jin and Jack if they will welcome them when they get to Earth. They take off the headsets. So it turns out the world of the game was based off the world of the aliens, and they lived in a three-body star system. But their world kept being destroyed because of this. Wade was right, the game is a recruitment tool. It makes people empathize with the aliens and their situation. Then once you get to level 4 and realize they are real, you feel bad, and of course you would want to welcome them to this world. The strange lady tells them that the aliens are called Santi, which, by the way, major downgrade from the books. They were called Trisolarans, which is way cooler. The reason they call them Santi is because a woman from China was the first to make contact, which we know is Yao and Xia. And Santi reads three-body people in Chinese. The strange lady tells Jack and Jin that yes, they are on their way here. Jack believes this is a scam and that they are only after his money. Jin says this is the only thing that explains everything that's been happening. The flickering stars, the game, and the particle accelerators not working. It could explain all of them, that it is aliens. The lady says they are free to go if they want. Jack leaves and Jin stays wanting to hear more about this. The lady gives Jin another letter saying they are holding a summit to welcome her and the other level 4 champions into their organization. We also find out some lore about Jin here, that her parents were killed in a flood when she was little, which explains why she made that face at dinner with Raj's parents. Jack returns home, Clarence is still following him, keeping tabs on the guy. Jack goes into his bedroom and the strange lady is there. Jack is pretty scared, how did she get in here? Jack says there is cameras in every room and she agrees, and walks closer to him. Clarence should be able to see him, but he doesn't. So something is creating an image of an empty room, like what happened with the flickering stars. An image was projected onto the night sky, which is why Earth's satellites didn't see it. Jack kinda charges at her and the woman slams him against the window. So clearly this woman is not human or she has some kind of upgrades, cause Jack has to have 200 pounds on her at least. No way she could move him like that. She tells him all he had to do was keep playing. She then stabs him in the neck with a knife. Jack falls to the ground dead. We then see the woman scrubbed from the security footage. And that is the end of episode 3. Pretty sad that Jack died, to be honest. But what'd you guys think of it? Leave it down in the comments below, and if you want more three-body problem content, please subscribe and like the video. Check out the Twitter link in the description below, and as always, have an awesome day.